Good evening, it's Monday the 10th of November and here's what's making news around the world on World News Tonight. Natural disaster. Typhoon Fung kills 2 in the Philippines and continues its dangerous path toward Taiwan. Legislative progress. US Senate takes a crucial step to end the federal government shutdown. Family bond. Teen faithfully keeps a 12-year-old promise by taking his mother on a special pottery date.
From Colombo, this is World News Tonight with Selena Jayathilaka.
Good evening and thank you once again for joining us on World News Tonight on other Derana News channel. A severe warning tonight as Typhoon Fung, packing sustained winds of 185 kilometers per hour and gusts up to 230 kilometers per hour, barreled into northern Luzon, Philippines, forcing over 1 million people to evacuate. At least 2 people have died and the typhoon is now tracking toward the South China Sea and Taiwan.
A powerful super typhoon has slammed into the Philippines, forcing nearly 1 million people to evacuate and killing at least 2. Super Typhoon Fung made landfall late on Sunday night in Aurora Province on Luzon, with winds of 185 kilometers per hour and gusts up to 230 kilometers per hour. By early Monday, it had weakened slightly, but continued to pound Luzon with torrential rain and destructive winds. Authorities warn of life-threatening storm surges and floods. Airports in the area are closed and nearly 300 flights have been canceled. The storm comes just days after Typhoon Kalmegi hit the Philippines, killing more than 200 people. Authorities say Typhoon Fung will move northwest through Monday before heading to Taiwan midweek.
A grim maritime disaster unfolded off the Thailand-Malaysia border as a boat carrying members of the persecuted Rohingya minority from Myanmar sank, leaving at least 11 dead and scores missing. Authorities in Malaysia and Thailand have launched a large-scale search and rescue mission in the Andaman Sea.
Authorities in both Thailand and Malaysia confirmed that at least 11 bodies have been recovered following the sinking of a wooden boat believed to be carrying around 70 Rohingya refugees. The vessel went down near Langkawi, close to the Thai-Malaysian maritime border, late Sunday night amid rough sea conditions. Survivors told officials that they had departed from Myanmar's Rakhine state hoping to reach Malaysia to seek work and refuge from ongoing persecution and poverty. The Malaysian Maritime Enforcement Agency and the Royal Thai Navy have jointly launched an extensive search and rescue operation, deploying patrol vessels and aerial support to locate dozens still missing. According to Langkawi District Police Chief Khairul Azhar Nuruddin, at least 24 people have been rescued so far, while rough waves and strong winds have complicated recovery efforts. Officials say survivors are being treated for dehydration and exhaustion. The tragedy underscores the continuing plight of the Rohingya, a stateless Muslim minority who have faced decades of violence and displacement in Myanmar. Thousands attempt the perilous sea journey across the Bay of Bengal and Andaman Sea each year, often in overcrowded, unseaworthy boats run by human traffickers. International aid groups are calling for stronger regional cooperation and safer migration pathways to prevent more loss of life.
2 Sydney politicians Allegra Spender and Kelly Sloan say they have received death and sexual violence threats after publicly condemning a neo-Nazi rally outside the New South Wales Parliament. The demonstration by the National Socialist Network displayed anti-Semitic banners, and investigations by state police and the federal authorities are now underway.
Neo-Nazis with the police-sanctioned rally outside Parliament. Their sign abolished the Jewish lobby. One of the first to condemn the White Australia group, member for Vaucluse, Kelly Sloan.
It was designed to intimidate, to undermine the Jewish community in particular.
This morning she was hit with abuse on social media, including an image of a noose with the words, "Time to shut up and die."
There were dozens of abusive messages. It was a typical Twitter pile-on. Some of those messages were worthy of passing on to police because they were particularly intimidating, particularly violent.
Joel Davis is the spokesman for the White Australia group. Federal MP Allegra Spender was named in a post from Joel Davis. "Patriots, I bid thee to rhetorically rape Allegra Spender.
Yeah, it was pretty shocking and not something you ever want to hear, but we've referred it to the police, and I've got a lot of confidence in the AFP.
South Korea's Foreign Minister Cho Hyun met Cambodia's Prime Minister Hun Manet to finalize a joint task force and a memorandum of understanding aimed at tackling rampant online scam operations. The move follows the torture-linked death of a 22-year-old Korean student in Cambodia and signals heightened cooperation.
During his 3-day visit to Cambodia, South Korean Foreign Minister Cho Hyun met with Prime Minister Hun Manet at the Peace Palace in Phnom Penh to strengthen bilateral relations. The talks focused on security collaboration, particularly targeting the rise in online scams that have affected citizens from both countries. The visit underscores Seoul's commitment to protect its nationals abroad. Both sides discussed finalizing a memorandum of understanding for the Korea-Cambodia Joint Task Force, which is expected to launch this month. The task force will facilitate information sharing, joint investigations, and rapid response to cybercrime, aiming to dismantle fraud networks preying on South Koreans in Cambodia. Authorities have highlighted technology-based fraud as a growing transnational concern. The initiative comes in the wake of the tragic death of a 22-year-old South Korean student whose body was discovered at Bokor Mountain. The case prompted both governments to accelerate cooperation. Prime Minister Hun Manet and President Lee Jae-myung previously agreed to a working group to combat crimes involving South Koreans, signaling strengthened law enforcement collaboration and citizen safety measures.
Let's go in for a short commercial break. More world news coming right after this. Welcome back. In Washington, the United States Senate advanced a crucial funding measure aimed at ending the 40-day federal government shutdown. The bill, which passed a 60-40 procedural vote, would fund government operations through late January and restore pay to furloughed workers. But it still needs full Senate, House, and presidential approval.
The motion upon reconsideration is agreed to.
The U.S. Senate on Sunday voted in favour of a measure aimed at reopening the federal government and ending a shutdown. In a procedural vote, senators advanced a House-passed bill that will be amended to fund the government until January 30th. The measure includes a package of 3 full-year appropriation bills. The vote to advance it passed by a 60-40 margin, the minimum needed to overcome a Senate filibuster. If the chamber eventually passes the amended measure, it still must be approved by the House of Representatives and sent to President Donald Trump for his signature, a process that could take several days. Republican Senator Susan Collins explained that the legislation will provide back pay for all federal employees.
Under our legislation, all federal employees, including members of our military and Coast Guard, the Capitol Police officers, Border Patrol agents, TSA screeners, air traffic controllers, all will receive their back wages.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, the chamber's top Democrat, voted against the measure, but a handful of Democrats rebuffed their party's leadership. Under a deal struck with Democrats, Republicans agreed to vote in December on extending subsidies under the Affordable Care Act. The subsidies, which are due to expire at the end of the year, have been a Democratic priority during the funding battle. Many Democrats on the Hill watched the deal unfold with displeasure. California Representative Ro Khanna even called for the replacement of Schumer in a post on X. The wrangling on Capitol Hill came as Trump again pushed to replace subsidies for the ACA's health insurance marketplaces with direct payments to individuals. Sunday marked the 40th day of the shutdown. It has sidelined federal workers and affected food aid, parks, and travel. Air traffic control staffing shortages also threatened to derail travel during the busy Thanksgiving holiday season late this month.
Today marks the opening of COP30, the latest round of United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change negotiations held in the Amazonian city of Belém, Brazil. Delegates are under pressure to turn 3 decades of climate pledges into action, emphasizing acceleration, cooperation, and implementation on the front lines of forest and biodiversity protection.
The city of Belém, at the gateway to the Amazon, will host the UN Climate Change Conference this Monday. After a pre-summit meeting of heads of state, representatives from 170 countries will work to devise a strategy ensuring that our planet remains inhabitable. Though representation from one of the world's biggest polluters, the United States, is conspicuously absent from the high-level meeting. Due to a lack of hotels to accommodate the 50,000 people expected at the COP30, some delegations are staying on cruise ships.
You know, in most of the countries where we go, in most of the workshops, in most of the conferences, we stay in the hotels or in the apartments, so we wanted something that is different.
Brazil has emphasized that the summit's goal will be to implement the promises made at previous conferences rather than to reach another landmark agreement. The transition away from fossil fuels and the fight against deforestation will figure large in debates. And Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva already announced that $5.5 billion was raised for a fund to aid developing countries in protecting their tropical forests, which should be one of the main concrete outcomes of the conference. The host country also invited representatives of numerous indigenous peoples to speak on their lands. COP30 will end on November 21st with a consensus-based text. In 2015, the Paris Agreement promised to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 to keep global warming to a maximum of 1.5 degrees Celsius. Though 10 years later, most scientists agree that the limit will be exceeded, rendering whole regions of the planet uninhabitable.
In a milestone for U.S.-Syria relations, Syrian President Ahmed al-Sharaa arrived in Washington, having been removed from the U.S. terrorism blacklist just a day earlier. The visit, the first by a Syrian head of state since 1946, includes a highly anticipated White House meeting with Donald Trump.
Ahmed al-Sharaa has worked to appear as moderate as possible since taking power in Syria. After swapping his combat uniform for a suit, the former jihadist has shared images of himself dropping his jacket to play basketball with U.S. troops. This before arriving for a historic visit in Washington. Al-Sharaa has already been in the U.S. in September, where he addressed the UN General Assembly. He has met with Donald Trump back in May in Riyadh. His immediate goal is to have all sanctions on Syria lifted permanently. This includes sanctions on industries and individuals. Donald Trump not only supports that, the U.S. is the one that brought the resolution lifting sanctions from al-Sharaa and his interior minister to the UN Security Council.
We're going to meet. And I think he's doing a very good job. It's a tough neighborhood, and he's a tough guy. You know, we took the sanctions off at the request of Turkey, at the request of actually Israel.
Because as Syria hopes to restart its economy, get international funds to rebuild itself after the devastating war, the U.S. has its own interests. It hopes Syria will join the international alliance against the Islamic State. The U.S. also plans to establish a military base near Damascus to monitor the situation on the ground. It hopes Syria and Israel would normalize their relations. This way, Iran would not be able to use Syrian territory to resume weapon deliveries to its ally Hezbollah in Lebanon. The U.S. would also monitor the humanitarian situation on the ground after attacks targeting religious minorities.
In southern Brazil, a devastating tornado struck the town of Rio Bonito do Agacho in the state of Parana, killing at least 6 people and injuring hundreds, while displacing around 1,000 residents and collapsing roofs across over half the urban area. Rescue teams are searching the rubble as emergency services respond to the catastrophe.
A tornado that tore through the southern Brazilian state of Paraná left 6 people dead. That's according to the state government a day later, who say the town of Rio Bonito do Iguaçu was hit the hardest. Authorities say half of the urban areas saw roofs collapsed and structures failed, and that around 1,000 people were displaced. Roads were blocked and power lines damaged. The town's mayor, Cesar Augusto Bovino, said firefighters were still searching for victims.
Unfortunately, it was destroyed by this tornado. The images are shocking when you fly over the area and see firsthand what's happening. And Derana has been following the protocols we have here regarding the organization of our forces and security.
Volunteers and emergency crews were airlifting saline solution, medicine, and supplies to hard-hit areas. Authorities were also rushing rescue teams to the area, including elite responders with search dogs. The state's health secretary said hospitals were struggling to cope with nearly 500 patients treated in just 12 hours.
Time for a short break now. We'll be right back with more world news. Welcome back. A promise kept. 4-year-old Emerson Longton vowed to take his mother, Megan, on a date when he could drive. 12 years later, now 16, he honored that vow. They made pottery together before an evening out.
This little boy is making a promise to his mom.
So tell me that when you're 16 and finally able to drive a car.
I'm going to take my mommy on a date.
The 4-year-old fidgets with his shirt as his mom says she's not going to let him forget this moment.
All right, I'm going to hold you to it.
Fast forward 12 years later, here's that little kid today, and he's sticking to his word. Emerson Longton is taking mom, Megan, on a date to make pottery. Then a night out on the town.
I said, are you ready to go? Where do you want to go eat? Where are we going?
It really has gone by extremely fast. I couldn't be more proud of him.
I'm going to take my mommy on a date.
And now moving on to a story of enduring friendship across continents, New Jersey native Debbie Housechild, who began writing to Jane Bean in England as an 11-year-old in the 1970s, soared into London to meet her pen pal face-to-face for the very first time. Over more than 50 years of letters, emails, and life updates, the pair at last shared a hug.
For this New Jersey woman, a journey decades in the making. Debbie Housechild is heading to London to meet her friend Jane Bean for the very first time. Their friendship began in the 70s when a children's show matched them as pen pals. They stayed in touch over the years, but then they realized 50 years had gone by. So they finally decided to meet. No longer an ocean away, now they're finally making memories together.
And with that, we come to the end of today's edition of World News Tonight. With the hopes of seeing you again, I'm Selina Jayatillaka, and we leave you tonight with the visuals of Berlin, dazzling with beats, lights, and cheer. Also, don't forget to send us your feedback through email at feedback.adncenglish@derana.lk or via WhatsApp at 076-805-7933. Thank you for watching World News Tonight on Other Derana News channel. Have a great night.